Today on Locked On Red Wings, we begin player previews with the birthday boy, at least as of recording this, Captain Dylan Larkin.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, and we are officially starting our player preview because it's officially August as of this airing. It's still July as of recording this. It's Wednesday. Dylan Larkin's birthday, his 29th birthday. It is also, as of recording this, 71 days, his number, away from the Red Wings season opener as well. So a couple of different things, stars aligning here for us to preview Dylan Larkin. We always start with Larkin anyways because he's the captain. No better way to start, but it just happened to line up. We'd be recording this on his birthday as well. Scotty, happy sweep. Hopefully by the time people are listening to this, the Tigers made a couple impactful trades. How you feeling on that front?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. As people listen to this, it'll be after the trade deadline. So we'll see what they do, but the reliever market looks plentiful.
Glad to hear it. If you want to hear Scotty's thoughts on the reliever market, I'm sure you can go hear that over at Locked On Tigers. But here, Scotty, let's start off with Dylan Larkin. We're going to do three players on this episode. Jonatan Berggren and Justin Holl are the other two. But Dylan Larkin, 29 years old, coming off a season where he had just 70 points, a little bit down for him in 82 games played, but still achieved 30 goals and 40 assists. You know, are we at a point when we're talking about player expectations going into a new season that with Dylan Larkin, it's kind of stay the course?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think there's probably a little bit more nuance in there. But I think that if he continues to put up the type of production he has in the last two seasons, then we're like happy campers. I'm not sure there's a ton more room to grow. I think this probably is his ceiling, and that's around a 1 point a game center that can win faceoffs and play defense and be used in every single situation. Like, that's a darn good player. So yeah, I don't think there's like when he was younger, the conversation when we would do these previews was always, is there room for him to grow, or like, can he stay on the ice, and like all of these different things. It's like, I think for the most part, like we know what he is. And if he continues to do what he's done the last two seasons, then that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Larkin is, at 29 years old, who he is. And we're not going to have, I think 2 years ago, we had the can he hit 40 goals conversation. And
right.
I think this last year, his production actually took a little bit of a dip. 70 points in 82 games. He went through a couple of cold stretches. Still good production. Fourth straight 30-goal season for Dylan Larkin. But I think that's what you're going to expect. You're going to expect a guy who's going to be around a point per game. Prior to this last season, he had 69 points in 68 games. His first ever season, I believe, where he finished over a point per game by just one. The season before that, he had 79 points in 80 games. Season before that, he had 69 points in 71 games. So always a point above or below about a point per game in his career. Crazy that he's never actually hit 80. Obviously, he hit 79 in 22-23. But when I think of Dylan Larkin, I think of an 80-point player, and it's insane to me, just as an anecdote, that he actually has not hit that number, and I think he is fully capable of hitting that number. Yeah. You know, this was the first time since his third season in the NHL he's played a full 82 games. I think that, he is fully capable and at absolute peak, right? His ceiling in a season, let's say, is a point-per-game player across 82 games. I think if he stays healthy, because again, we had this conversation a little bit with Lucas Raymond last week. There were reports of a nagging injury, alleged reports of a nagging injury coming out of Four Nations, and that's kind of why he underperformed. It's why he didn't go to USA Worlds. It's because he was battling through something, and that could have had an impact on his production. He did have a slump earlier in the season as well, but I think with Dylan Larkin, 30 goals and however many assists, 50 assists or whatever it takes for him to get to 80 points, isn't out of the realm of reality, isn't out of the realm of possibility. 35 goals, 45 assists. I think he's probably going to be around an 80-point player again with the Detroit Red Wings, and that's exactly what you need. You need your number one center who can win a lot of faceoffs. He had 55% faceoff win percentage last year. He plays on power play unit 1. He's very good in the bumper in that position. He plays penalty kill unit 1 or 2, depending on the makeup. So he plays in every situation. Like, this is a guy, and he played bulk defensive zone deployments last year versus offensive zone deployments because they were deploying that second unit, that second line, more in the offensive zone. So he was doing all of this while getting more defensive deployments than he was offensive deployments and still being a 6.3% positive relative to his teammates in Corsi, 4% relative. Like, he's a do-it-all type of guy, and I know there's a ton of conversation, Scotty, around can he be a number one center on a Stanley Cup winning team. We will worry about that when we have a Stanley Cup winning team. It is really hard, a Stanley Cup contender, let's say.
Yeah.
It is really hard to get better at center, and he is a damn good center. He is a bona fide 1C. And if he's not a Stanley Cup winning 1C, and that means he's your number 2C, it means you have the best second line center in the NHL. Like,
Yeah.
There's this weird conversation with Dylan Larkin, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, Scotty. I'm sorry.
Please.
But there's this really weird conversation with Dylan Larkin where people will look past all the good he brings to the team because they're convinced he's not a good first-line center. He is a very good first-line center. Now, on the flip side of that, the other people who defend him like to, at least on social media, and I shouldn't give any credit to social media because it's full of nonsense, like to act like he doesn't have any flaws and is an elite 1C. The truth is he's a very good 1C. And he is I think, a 1C that's capable of pulling you into the playoffs. And if he can play a point per game like he's been every season the last 3 years prior to this last one, where he had battled through injuries and had a slump, where he still scored 30 goals, mind you, I mean, I don't see why he can't be a 1C that takes you to the playoffs. He is not the problem with this team. He just isn't. I think expecting Dylan Larkin to be Dylan Larkin is where our expectations should be at, because we just know what he is at this point.
Yeah, and I think you said it well there earlier, too, where it's like, if you want to split hairs about, like, oh, is he good enough to be the 1C on a cup-winning team? It's like, okay, well, that almost reinforces the point that he is not the problem. Like, that because this is not a cup-winning caliber roster, or really even close to that at the present moment. So if that just, again, kind of doubles down the fact that is not even close to your biggest problem. That is something that, we can talk about ways to improve, or if, they need to bring somebody else in to put ahead of him when we get to a point where that's like, oh, like, we can't get over the hump, whatever. This guy is absolutely, if you were to, with his current contract and the amount of years left, if you were to put him like on the trade block, 31 teams would pick up the phone. Like,
geez, yes.
He is a fantastic player that every single team in the NHL would want and use, and he would be in a prominent role for 31 other franchises. So I think you want to set the point total at like 80 and say that should be the benchmark. I think he probably, comes within 5 or 10 points of that, assuming he stays on the ice.
Yeah, plus minus 5 or 10. Go 5 over, 5 under. I think that's exactly in the realm of possibility across an 82-game season. The question, I mean, the thing about he's not the Stanley Cup winning 1C type conversation is like, okay, yes, you can absolutely get better at 1C. There are 1Cs out there that are better. My question to that is, how? How do you get a guy like that in here? Like,
well, not only
Larkin,
but you can say that about every single center in the NHL, sans McDavid.
Right.
Like, there's always somebody better. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you could have a 90 or 100-point center, but those are really hard to find. So you want to throw away Dylan Larkin for what? Who? Unless you want to just absolutely blow it up and tank for Gavin McKenna, like, Dylan Larkin's who you got, and he's a very good 1C. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. He is very good.
For sure.
And we expect
Grass
him
ain't
to
always
be,
greener, baby.
Grass ain't always greener. That's a great point. We're going to talk about a couple of situations where the grass might be greener in segment 2 and 3. So stay tuned to that. Segment 2 coming up. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with the last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats for you, and you can actually see what your seat is going to look like by using the panoramic seat view in the app. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. And if you have plans that may change or you're concerned about that happening, the Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Scotty, we're going to move on from 1C to 6/7D. And that was where my jab comes in. I'm talking about Justin Holl in segment 2 here. All jokes aside, if I'm going to lead this off with talking about a positive, talk about the pros, Justin Holl, especially under Todd McClellan, was effective in his deployment. That deployment was incredibly sheltered on the third pair, getting mostly offensive zone deployments paired next to Eric Gustafsson. But in those deployments, he was actually an effective defenseman. So Justin Holl, going into the third year of his 3-year deal, having just had 8 points in 73 games played, not that we worry about point totals with him, what are your hopes or expectations out of the, 6'4" right shot defenseman?
I think that he would have even better deployments in the press box as a 7th D-man. And again, it is what it is. That's not supposed to be a dig at him personally or anything. It's just I think this blue line was a train wreck going into the offseason and really is bringing back almost all of the same group. So I think in a perfect world, he is a 7th defenseman for this team if you're going to roster him, which, we were talking about. This is 2 summers in a row now where we were talking about buying him out in the offseason. That didn't happen, obviously, either year. Again, it is what it is. He's going to be on the team. What role suits him best? I think the role where, and again, this isn't even me trying to be funny or be a jerk. The role where you get the most out of him is probably as a 7th defenseman. And if they do get decent play from him as a third pair guy, then, that's kind of a win at this point.
Yeah, so hopes versus expectations, right? I hope exactly what you hope. He is your 6/7th defenseman at best, 7th defenseman, hopefully, because that means either JBD hit, you took the waiver on him, and it turns out he's actually a pretty talented defenseman, and he proves himself at the NHL level and gets regular minutes on the third pair. Or ASP surprises out of camp and finds his way onto an everyday roster spot, pushes Justin Holl out of the lineup. Like you, that's not a dig at Justin Holl, just trying to find the best ways to maximize this defensive core. Because your third pair is always going to be your most sheltered pair. That's just how it works. They're your third pair for a reason. But you don't want to have the most sheltered pair in the NHL. And, not quite as bad as when we had Gostisbehere on the team, but that third pair was one of the more sheltered pairs in the NHL. So to move on from Holl, at least as the 6th defenseman, would be, at least in the terms of putting him into the press box, may mean a third pair capable of handling a little bit more difficult minutes, freeing up your top 2 pairs to take on a little bit more of the more fun stuff,
right?
Where they can shine and have a bigger impact.
Right, the perfect
offensively.
world scenario, yeah.
But that's not what I expect to happen. I don't expect ASP to make the team out of camp, barring some huge strides forward in his game here in the offseason. As he is either number one or number two prospect in the Red Wings system. But I just think he's going to need a year in the AHL to adjust. So that gives you Justin Holl or JBD as your likely sixth defenseman. I think they'll split time until one kind of proves the other is the sixth defenseman. So I kind of expect Justin Holl to play the same role that he did, much like the Larkin conversation. I expect Justin Holl to play the same role that he did on the team last year, which is very depressing because, again, this isn't a jab at Justin Holl in particular. I just wanted this defensive roster to get better. Yeah. And we're still talking about slotting him in there. He's not the most fleet of foot. He doesn't strike me as having the most hockey IQ compared to some of his teammates. Or other defenders in the league. He's a big body, and he's not afraid to lay his body on the line. I like that about him. It's just that I understand that if you're going to be using him, it means that pair one especially, and pair two, depends on how they split up Edvinsson and Seider, or if they pair them together, are going to be taking on more difficult deployments to get that usage out of Holl in the third pair, that sheltered usage. And again, he was effective in that sheltered role, especially under McClellan. He was more effective. Like, actually, Corsi 4 positive on this team, and a plus on the plus-minus, which is insane. But again, that's because they were incredibly sheltered. I don't like plus-minus as a stat because, again, it's a team stat. It is a sheltered player. Of course, it'd be easier to accumulate pluses than Mort Seider, who's out there against, like, Connor McDavid. But there is a situation here. He could be effective in minimal minutes. And that's what I expect to happen. I would just prefer to have a different third pair defenseman, hopefully JBD, who can take on a little bit of a bigger role in the third pair so there's less sheltered deployments.
Right. And again, that kind of circles back to my original point, which is just like, I think the most value you get out of him is being a plug and play, seventh D man whenever you need a spot. Like there's going to be injuries. He's a fine option to have as, that depth defenseman. He's obviously a very expensive one, and that was not the the role that they intended on making him when they put pen to paper a couple years ago. But as I've already said a few times, it is what it is. This is the situation we're in, and I think that's probably, in my eyes, the scenario in which they get the most out of them. So anything more than that is going to be, as we've already said kind of throughout the summer, a disappointment, not because of anything he's done, more so just because that means that this blue line got no better, which is I don't know, like, dare I say, kind of inexcusable given how it looked most of last season.
Right. Scotty, let's head to another break, and we will talk about Jonatan Berggren in segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Segment 3. Scotty, Jonatan Berggren is always one of our most anticipated conversations because of the fact that he is somebody that a lot of fans feel has more in him, but when he gets to the NHL level, struggles to find scoring consistency on the ice with the Red Wings. And now this year, he did have, 24 points with the Red Wings, 12 goals, 12 assists in 75 games, playing primarily a bottom six role, was in and out of the lineup at times, 75 games, so he played most of the season, but, there were times where he was the healthy scratch, and he played on the second power play unit at times as well, which is kind of what I think is going to be his role, but what is your hope versus expectation here?
Well, I to be honest with you, I think those are pretty widely separated, hope versus expectation. I think Berggren's someone that we were rather excited about a few years ago, and then when he got demoted after playing 60 games in the NHL a couple of years ago, we became very, critical, I guess is the word, of his game. And it was very similar to the Joe Veleno experience, where it's like, man, like you really feel like this dude, should be taking maybe somewhat of another step forward, or that there's a little bit more in there than we had hoped for. And we really just haven't seen it. So like my hope is that he is a solidified bottom 6 goal scorer, because that was our hope for him going into last year, right? Like we really wanted him to be, especially with the goals that walked out of that room from 2 seasons ago to last year. Like we were really banking on Berggren to be this depth scoring option that could improve the scoring depth that left. And I think it's fair to say that they did not get that from him last year. It wasn't some like catastrophic failure of a season by any stretch, but it also wasn't what we had hoped in like a perfect world going into the 2025 year. So I think that my hope is kind of the same as what it was going into last season, where it's just like, I really hope that this dude maybe is a solidified, whether that's 3rd or 4th line, I don't even really care, but like can put the puck in the back of the net at a decent clip while doing so, because he doesn't really provide anything else. He's not a like high-end playmaker that's going to get you a ton of assists. He's not out there for his defense. Certainly, like that is where his value comes from. And when he doesn't do that, that means that he's not providing too much value. So I think that is my hope, my expectation. I'm not really sure. I know what my expectation is for him at this point. I think my expectation probably isn't too far from what he was last year. And if that's the case, then I think there's a real chance that he's like not in the everyday lineup card by, February or the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think my hope and expectation are a lot closer this year than they would have been last season.
Sure.
Because we have a full season of Jonatan Berggren under our belt, and he's 25. Like, let's remind people, he's not a young prospect in the same way that, a Marco Kasper is. Was taken in the same draft as Zadina and Veleno. So while he's still young enough, he could take a leap forward. We have enough tape on him to have a good feeling that this is probably more than likely what he is. So my hope would be that he is in the same role that he was in last year, but he just gets some more points. If he can crack 30 points this year as a bottom 6 goal scorer who plays second power play unit minutes, that's a win. And I think that that's good production for the way he's going to be used and the way that he's going to be deployed. My expectation is just kind of similar to what I just stated. Like, I think that he will just be what he was last season, a bottom 6 forward playing second power play units. It's just the difference between the hope and the expectation is how many points I expect him to get in that role. Like, that's literally all it is. And again, he could take a huge step forward and surprise us, but for all the reasons that you just laid out, like he's not great defensively. And that was the big reason why he couldn't stick in the NHL before, is because he just was not good enough to play NHL minutes at that. He's not overly big. He's only 5'11". He's not small either. 5'11" is not tiny, but it's not also by how the NHL continues to get big. He's not big by any stretch. He's not the fastest skater. He's not the hardest forechecker. He's decent playmaker, and he's got a lethal snapshot. But you need more than just those two. He's also one of the best personalities on the roster. Kid's hilarious. I love every social media post that we see him. But those 3 things aren't enough to, win you many favors on an NHL roster. You got to be able to play those other areas better. And so I want to hope that those areas do improve, but I also recognize this is a guy that's been in the system now for 7 years. This will be his 7th year since he's been drafted.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, he's young, he's older than Seider and Raymond. Like, this is a guy we have to recognize.
Like, comfortably, too. It's not like he's a year older than Raymond. Like, he's like pretty comfortably older, yeah.
He's likely at his ceiling or close to it, barring a huge breakout year. And I would love to be wrong, because we were so high on Jonatan Berggren. We love that kid. He's hilarious, and he seems like a genuine great dude, and he has like that. He's like that AHL All-Star type guy. Like, You send him down to the minors and he tears it up,
Right.
and then he gets up to the NHL and he kind of just fades into the background on most of the shifts he's out there. So I hope that there's more to his game, but I don't expect there to be more. And if he can get into the 30-point range, get to like 32 points this season, which is a modest 8 points is a lot. I won't try and pretend like that's not a lot, especially for the bottom six role. 8 points more out of Jonatan Berggren, that's a very effective bottom six winger. That's my hope. And my expectation is just, what do we got?
Right. I don't disagree with that. I think that's like kind of the hope that I'm sure the organization has, is just get whatever that is, 12 to 15 maybe goal total and a point total that's in the 30s, and that's probably a successful year in their eyes.
Right. Scotty, it's actually funny. We didn't plan it this way, but we ended up picking 3 players that all our expectation was to be more of what they were, but I think it's because we picked 3 players that at this point are pretty established. When we get to like Marco Kasper, hopefully they'll be like, we expect him to get way better, or something along those lines. But always a fun conversation. Glad that we got the captain on his birthday out of the way. Of course, it'll be 2 days after his birthday by the time this episode drops.
Yeah, you keep saying that like this isn't airing on August 1st.
Which is why I keep reminding myself and the people that was.
People are going to be listening to this and like, dude, who cares? That was days ago. Like, what are you talking about? What is that hat?
This is the OCC, Oakland Community College logo.
Oh, sick. I was like, I've seen that. I went to OCC for a semester.
My sister-in-law works for OCC, and they were putting together like an OCC night at Comerica Park, and that was why I went to that game last week. So I got the hat for going.
That's sweet, dude.
Yeah,
Owls
cool
are
hat.
sweet.
Yeah, for sure. And I've now seen Jake Rogers pitch twice this season. In both games
you need to
I've gone
stop
to.
going to games, brother.
Very clearly. So, all right, man. We'll be back on Monday. We ball.
Same
Same time, same place. It's your team
every day.
Every day.